If you don't think there is a political conspiracy against Trump, check it out, Google censored. Another browser okay. Let me read it to you. Lansing, a federal judge in Kalamazoo, has asked the Michigan Supreme Court to clarify Governor Gretchen Whitmer's emergency powers during the coronavirus pandemic. The request from U.S. District Judge Paul Maloney could cause Michigan's High Court to reconsider its earlier rebuff of a request to give speedy attention to constitutional questions raised by Whitmer's use of emergency powers since the pandemic hit Michigan in March. In an order issued Wednesday in a lawsuit brought by Western Michigan medical providers over a Whitmer order that halted non-essential medical procedures, Maloney sent 2 certified questions to the Michigan Supreme Court. They are: whether, under the Emergency Powers of Governor Act of 1945 or the Emergency Management Act of 1976, Whitmer had the authority to issue or renew executive orders related to the pandemic after April 30, when the legislature refused to grant a 28-day extension of Michigan's state of emergency. Whether either the 1945 emergency statute or the one from 1976 violates constitutional law related to the separation of powers between Michigan's executive and legislative branches of government, by ceding too much legislative power to the governor. Michigan Court of Claims Judge Cynthia Stevens answered both questions in a May 21 ruling, in a separate lawsuit brought against Whitmer by the Republican-controlled legislature. Stevens ruled that Whitmer has the power to extend Michigan's state of emergency without legislative approval under the 1945 law, but not under the 1976 law. Stevens also ruled that the 1945 law did not represent an unconstitutional ceding of powers to the governor by the legislature, and therefore Whitmer's extension of the state of emergency and use of emergency orders are lawful. That ruling is now before the Michigan Court of Appeals after the Michigan Supreme Court, in a 4-3 ruling issued June 4, declined requests to expedite matters by allowing the case to leapfrog over the Court of Appeals and go directly to the Michigan Supreme Court. Instead, the case should follow the traditional route for appeals in the state courts, the majority of the justices said. But that narrow ruling could now be reconsidered. The Michigan Supreme Court is the ultimate authority on interpreting state law, and Maloney noted the questions crucial to the case before him have never been answered by either the Michigan Court of Appeals or the Michigan Supreme Court. The guidance sought today prevents this court from overstepping its role, eliminates the risk that this court interprets the relevant state law differently than the Michigan Supreme Court might, and eliminates the risk of conflicting federal and state decisions, Maloney wrote. State Supreme Courts are not required to accept certified questions from federal courts, but they usually do. Between 1990 and 1994, there were 284 such requests to state Supreme Courts from federal courts around the nation, and only 7 were refused, according to data cited in a 2003 article in the Cornell Law Review. The Michigan Court of Appeals is not expected to hear oral arguments in the lawsuit brought by the Michigan House and Senate until August. In the case before Maloney, brought by Grand Health Partners and other plaintiffs, the state defendants argued against certification, saying the questions are moot because Whitmer's order banning non-essential medical procedures has already been lifted. But Maloney rejected that argument, saying the plaintiffs in the case are still subject to other Whitmer orders setting out safety requirements and limiting the number of appointments they can schedule. On Thursday, Whitmer extended Michigan's state of emergency through July 16. It had been scheduled to expire at midnight Friday. Civil war strategy by the left, to divide us and keep their disposition a secret. Following the book, Don't Let Them Divide Us. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If the enemy's dispositions are visible, we can make for him in one body, whereas, our own dispositions being kept secret, the enemy will be obliged to divide his forces in order to guard against attack from every quarter. Why a civil war? Trump says drain the swamp. The left is running scared. Figuring a way to impeach him before he took office. Why? All the money they have been giving to other nations such as the Ukraine. Money comes back through shell companies into the pockets of the left. Schiff and Pelosi tried to impeach Trump over his investigation to Biden's sons tied to a Ukrainian company that does not exist. It goes much deeper than this. The left is losing the civil war as a federal judge orders Hillary Clinton to testify. This is only the beginning, as Trump is using General Grant's strategy. Hit them and hit them again and keep on the offensive.